Hello and welcome to the TR6CC channel, coming to you from the Fallout Shelter Garage. Today we're actually going to take a look at the next project on the TR6 and then do one final update on the lift. So on that note, I'll try and be mindful and turn the camera around nicely. The lift now is 100% fully installed. The last thing that needed to be done was the addition of a grout, precision grout underneath the base plate that's about an inch off of the garage floor. This needs to cure. I guess it'll need to cure technically 28 days to full strength, but after about 7 days it should be sufficient that I'll feel comfortable lifting the cars. I did lift the Porsche before I put the thin set in, and then I retorqued everything down. So that was really just to make sure that that the unit did function correctly. And it didn't have any problems, and everything worked out nicely. So anyway, why it's important that the lift is actually finally done is just because it seemed to be sucking up a lot of my time. I still need to finish up the patchwork up there, but that'll come to at a different point in time. So the project that we're working on the 6 was the replacement of the ignition wires. And originally, and I'll walk over and show you a picture of it, I had a coil pack or not a coil pack, but it's not even a distributor, but let's just call it a coil pack that sat here. And then there were 4 individual lines that ran to the 4 cylinders. The problem that I had with it is that it just looked terrible. The plugs, although everything functioned, they weren't really meant for this valve cover, and even the new valve cover I got, it just wasn't going to work. So when I bought this engine used, I forget where I bought it, but I think it was probably off of eBay. The engine actually came with the 4 coil packs. So I actually had these the 4 coil packs in my possession. And then a company that I deal with out of the UK had these custom, I guess they're just 3D printed items that then allow you to just use these coil packs on whatever valve cover you happen to have. And then there was also a new wiring harness that was available. So I got the new wiring harness, and at the end of the day, I believe it'll be a much cleaner install. But put it in, fired it up, everything worked just as it should, and I really didn't expect that there'd be any problems. This ECU that I have runs using what they call a wasted spark system. So essentially, cylinders 1 and 4 fire at the same time all the time. So if 1 is on the compression stroke and 2 is on the exhaust, well, they're both bringing up compression, but compression and then the exhaust side, it fires at the same time. And of course, no harm, no foul if you're firing a spark plug in an exhaust system or in a cylinder with just the exhaust gases. And then of course does the same thing on cylinders 2 and 3 as they come up together. So essentially the wasted spark system just ends up with 3 wires. So coils 4 and 1 get attached together, as do 2 and 3, and then away they go. So again, nothing too earth-shattering there. The one thing that I did install, as you can see it down here, before I didn't actually have a map sensor. So I put a manifold pressure sensor in the system. I'm going to be converting from the throttle bodies to a single ignition, and that part's supposed to arrive on Thursday, so I'll give you a quick demo of that when it arrives, and just so you can see what it looks like. So on that note, I'll just wander over here. I think I've mentioned the fact that I'm putting on a new aluminum cam cover for the Triumph, and then here is the old coil pack that I had, and I don't know where I got the G10 from. I think it's G10, but I have this thing about using G10, so I actually had this bolted to the back side of the cam cover. So if you've got the cam cover sitting like this, there were 2 bolts that went in here. Let's see how can do this. And then of course this sat right here, and then of course the spark plugs just went across. And you know, again, it functioned. I mean, it wasn't exactly the prettiest thing, but you know, these, I don't know, just never really suited. I didn't like it, so I changed it. The only reason the cam cover is not actually on the car right now is because it came with these bolts, and all of them actually have, not all of them, but most of them have this threaded extension on the top. There we go, it's probably easier to see on the white background. And I've thought about, you know, I did try and cut some of them off, but you know, again, I'm going to spend all this time and all this effort, and then, you know, here you're going to be looking down at the top of the engine, and then you're going to kind of see this wonky thing, and even if I sand them down and painted them, it's just, anyway, so bottom line, I found these are 6 by 1.0 by 40 millimeter, I call them flange, I think that's the right term, shoulder flange bolts. So yeah, I was able to get for like $8 all of the ones that I'll need, so that you know, I'll have something that looks pretty professional. So as soon as those arrive on Thursday, I'll put the cam cover on and we'll go from there. Kind of just working away across here. Here's the parts for the Porsche. I think I've described that before. This is really the one thing that I need to get on there. This is the return spring for the clutch mechanism. And then of course the home link that'll allow me to link the Porsche to all of the various garage doors that we have here. And then last but not least, I don't think I introduced this project, but my Jeep JL has these hood scoops on the top of it. And, well, here, I'll just do a walk out there. And, you know, they are the strangest things because they don't actually function or do anything. So, you know, here you go, you can see them. And in reality, they look like they might actually do something, but they don't. And so there's really no ventilation or anything that comes through it. So with that in mind, I was able to find this Easy or Breathe Easy kit, and comes from, I forget who it comes from, I'll put a link down. But essentially now what you end up with is a scoop that actually allows air to flow through. So it's got for winter time, it's got a removable plastic or rubber piece. And then once it's opened up, you get ventilation, and of course this would be the front of the vehicle. So you've got ventilation that can then be, if you will, rammed through the engine compartment to, you know, aid in cooling, whatever the case is. And then, as I mentioned, since I live in a cold climate during the wintertime, you just put these on in the wintertime, and away you go. So this will be another project that I need to tackle. So again, goal is to get everything off of the table so that I can move on to the next thing. So with that in mind, let's just do one thing here. I haven't actually tried to show anybody a startup of the 6 yet, so let's just go ahead and do that. I have a little bit of time in between meetings today. All right, and I haven't started the 6 in a couple of days, so this is pretty much cold start. But you're gonna you'll get a feel for it, hopefully. Not sure how good the sound will come through or anything else like that, but let's see what happens. You know, for those of you who have a TR6 of this vintage, this has got to be the worst placement of an ignition switch. And it's even a locking switch, which is just crazy. But nonetheless, you can see everything firing up. So I put a voltmeter in, and then I've got the O2 sensor or the O2 gauge. I'll go into this window wiper assembly later on. I can't take credit for that one. I found it actually from a couple other people out on the internet, but it's a pretty cool setup. all of the gauges work. You can see the fuel gauge is doing what it's supposed to do, and you'll see oil pressure come up here in just a second. So let's see, I really should never reach through a steering wheel, but I think we're in good shape. And here we go. So there you go. That is the TR6, and you can see it starts up pretty good. Holds just around 950. It'll drop, the RPMs will drop a little bit. As I mentioned to you, all of the gauges do work. The speedo works off of a electrical drive system that's based off of GPS. But there you go. That is the 6. Right now, it runs a little lean, or excuse me, a little rich when you first start it up. And that's part of the problem I have, is that I'm pretty sure that the tuning is set up in that it thinks that it should have an air bypass valve in it, and it doesn't. So theoretically, the air bypass valve would be letting more air in, and then in the warm-up cycle, the richness would be taken care of because you'd be adding more air into the cycle. But again, that's just something that I'll need to take care of in the future as I start to tune it up. But you know, again, you know, she runs really well, and it doesn't matter whether it has sat for a month or whatever the time is. With, you know, it did sit for a couple months this winter. It starts right up. There's absolutely no problems with it, so that's pretty good. All right. Next thing I'll do is figure out how to take you guys for a test drive, but I'll do that after I get the new cam cover on and all of the wiring cleaned up. So that is it for now. Thanks for viewing, and like and subscribe, and cheers until the next time.